And it was kind of I, I think it was part of the song where basically it was like choosing freedom in a way,
Mm.
where it was more like I let you work in me. I let you work on me, and I choose this instead of allowing myself to sit in this anymore. And there may have been a thought here or there after that, but it was kind of a, what's that quote that says you let a bird fly over your head, but you don't let it make a nest in your hair. It was like that, where I started meditating on take every thought captive, and then I started rereading Proverbs over and over and over again.
Hey, welcome back to the Jesus Magnet. We've got Blake Barlow on the show today, and he is a hustler for sure when it comes to making ends meet, but also when it comes to doing things for the gospel. He has done an incredible documentary when I first came to Thailand. Sorry, not when I first came to Thailand, when I first moved to Thailand, I ran into this guy called Enoch Kenway, and he showed me this really cool documentary. Well, we went out for coffee, and he shared his story with me because all of our listeners, you all know that we are obsessed with people's stories and their testimonies. And he was sharing his heart with me over coffee, and he was saying how he's been planting churches for years and years, and he got so excited about it because he has this documentary coming out, and this is Blake who made the documentary for this guy Enoch, and it's about church planting. It's really 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 well done, and it's on YouTube. So definitely go check that out. Blake, what's it called?
It's called Faith Revolution.
Faith
I think it's called,
Revolution.
in the subtitles, The Journey of Church Planting.
Mm. And it's so well done. Honestly, it's one of those
Thank you.
ones where you just I mean I second guess and I go, man, there's so much talent in the world. And then when Blake and I started chatting, um, he's keen to share his story with us, and then he's just telling me that he's not even doing it full time, and he actually just you know drives trucks. He hustles he's a family man with a couple of kids, and he just decided basically to come over to Thailand and get this guy's story, but visually and document it in such a wild way. So Blake, thanks for coming on the show, and thank you for
Yeah,
deciding to share your heart and your story. I
thanks
would
for
like
inviting
to
me.
backtrack a little bit. We can talk
Yeah,
about the documentary stuff. We can talk about your YouTube, all that. But before we get into that, let's real quickly go into a bit more about you.
yeah.
Have you always had a faith? Is that something that grew, or did you develop that when you were a bit older?
So I grew up in church. I was a rainbow baby, so my mom had two miscarriages, one and then twins, and then she had me. And right before she had me, she decided that something needed to change, and so she started going to church. Um, she kind of went to church as a kid, and then went through the whole teenage phase, and then after her life being flipped upside down, she was like, I need to get in church. And so she started going to church, and then she raised me and my brother and sister in church. And so
Wow,
I was kind of in and
that's
out
all.
of different churches. My mom ended up getting jobs at churches. So she'd be like admin. And so we went to a couple of different churches. And then when I was 11, this kid invited me to church. He was like, hey, you should come to my youth group. I think I was in fifth grade or sixth grade or something. Um, and he said, at that time, my mom was kind of transitioning out of a role at a church. And I was like, hey, I don't really like this youth group we're in. Is there any way that I could try this other church? She said, sure, where is it? So she dropped me off. And 16 years later, I'm still there, raising my
Wow,
family in the same church.
Yeah, awesome. And did you obviously you grew up in church, but I mean, many of us grow up in church, but did you have a relationship with Christ, or was that something that you learned how to do when you were a bit older?
It wasn't until I started going to this church. The pastor that's pastoring now was the youth pastor at the time, and he just has a heart for really teaching what's in the Word. And so, even in the youth group, that's what the whole messages were about. He would do crazy games to get youth in, and then he would actually teach from the Word. And at the time, he was relating it to us, and so I was like, "This is really interesting." But it wasn't until I went to, um, I truthfully, I kind of grew up depressed with suicidal thoughts, and so I was battling that, and then at I was bullied in school, and so I kind of grew up with a whole like, um, if
Can I
I,
ask, Blake, with your
Mhm.
suicidal thoughts and depression, how old were you when that sort of stuff manifested?
Oh, dude, that I had to be 9 or 10, honestly.
Was there
Um,
anything that brought that on, or was it just realizing
um,
how anxious the world made you, or yeah.
I was bullied all throughout school. I'm a little different. um, just a and my dad always he was more interested in what my younger brother was doing. So he worked a lot, and so my brother was in sports and I wasn't, so he was spending his time with him, and so it's kind of a combination between um not getting to see my dad and not have a good connection between uh, either one of my parents, and then also being bullied in school, and then they got divorced when I was 15, and that was kind of a turning point for sure.
Mm. Yeah, that's got to be a rough one. The divorce factors, they they often really do lead to uh, a pretty big spiral for a lot of the
Hmm.
kids when they have parents that get divorced. Um, have you found that during those trials and during uh, all that, since you were raised in church, you had somewhere to run to, or um, were you still like just as lost as every other child?
It was up until 15. So I can't remember if it was right before or right after my parents got divorced. My dad decided, hey, I'm gonna not stay at the house, and they weren't divorced yet or anything. But then I went on this trip called Roots that um, our youth pastor put on. Um, Essentially, it was a deep dive into like the baptism of the Holy Spirit, and um, a deep dive into like really getting connected and the upper room and what happened in Acts and all of that. And so um, it's actually why I have Roots tattooed on my arm. Um, it was uh, from that moment, everything changed. My personality changed. I was
Can
I was
you
free.
can you explain that event a little bit more? Like what happened?
So it was a little more like they were doing teachings on what was going on in Acts, and then they just prayed for everybody. They put some worship music on, and there was like 10 or 11 of us, and our youth pastors went around praying for each of us. And it was the first time that I felt a manifestation of the Holy Spirit. It was like my whole body felt connected to something other than me, bigger than me. Um, and so it was, uh, and I didn't even realize that my personality changed until years later. Our youth pastor's wife, Bryn, she said, "Yeah, when we went on that Roots trip, on the way down there, you didn't say a word to anybody, and on the way back, you were bubbly and you had questions, and you talked the entire time. You never stopped talking on the way back." And I didn't even realize that. I had no idea that that switch even happened until years later. And so the event itself was really just praying over each of us. Um, and then it was I spent, you know, we started going to this house of prayer here in Albany, and so every Friday night for a year and a half, 2 years, um, I went and just sat down and prayed till like it was like 8 p.m. to midnight usually. And so we just a whole bunch of youth and um, some really cool, um, not older people, uh, pastorly figures that were leading worship. Um, they would all just lead worship, spontaneous worship, and we all just sat down and prayed or read the Bible or whatever it
Wow.
was. And so um, I just really started to have roots at that point, really diving into what scripture was, who the Holy Spirit was, what the, the trend, like all of that sort of started
Mm.
to really dive in. And, the depression and suicidal thoughts didn't really leave, but I was different. You know what I mean?
Hang on. Let me just get this straight. You still had suicidal thoughts?
Hmm.
Yeah. Even when you had this like encounter with Christ, and I find that really tricky to wrap my head around when you've had an encounter with Christ. And to still like, because that encounter is like a switch of how loved you really are and how
Hmm.
valued really. I had this moment just about 6 months ago, maybe 8 months ago, um, where I became a dad for with my child Zion, and
Congrats.
what happened is I was holding him, and this download of like a penny drop moment, revelation moment of value and how to establish value. So I've bought and sold a few properties over the years, and one thing I've learned about selling a property is the value of that property is what somebody's willing to purchase it for. And this revelation hit me when I'm standing at 3 in the morning holding my infant child who's 3 weeks old and looking down and thinking, I would sacrifice everything, everything in this universe for this little boy.
Hmm.
And I realized that is that our value? And then I was thinking about this. That would be the market value is what somebody's willing to either sell or buy or sacrifice for something else.
Hmm.
And then I was thinking about that with Christ and how what did God purchase us with? Now, this is the profound part about this. You have a God that can create an infinite amount of wealth. He can create 100 million galaxies times infinity, and he could sell that for you. But this is the crazy part. That would still not be a just purchase. It's not enough value. Otherwise, God would have done it. He would have just created the value and purchased us. But this is the craziest part is there's nothing in this entire universe that matched our value because God would have just created that to buy us back into the kingdom. Our value is so great that it had to come from the currency that is worth you had to come from outside of this universe, which was Christ, somebody not in the universe. So your value, and that is the established value, and that's actually why Satan thought he had us. He thought there's no penny heavy enough to tip the scales for your salvation in this universe. He thought that there's no piece of gold heavy enough to tip the scales for your salvation. So he thought he had us. And then he really thought he had us when Jesus died. But that was actually the turning point where God said, this is actually my payment. And it's something outside of the universe. So when I was looking at my son Zion going, man, like I would sacrifice everything in this universe for him. I would do anything for him. I would jump in front of a train for him. And then that is just a drop in the bucket for what God did for us. And I'm thinking, whoa, I had the smallest glimpse of his value. and how special he is, and this revelation moment. And I mean, that's why I'm asking you, like, upon a revelational moment of like God's love for you, I find it difficult to have the thoughts of I'm still worthless, therefore I'm still suicidal, or have those thoughts, those temptations towards myself. What's your thoughts on that?
Is definitely a powerful perspective, and I felt that when my son was born too. Um, I couldn't put it quite as eloquently as you did, but I definitely had that same sort of revelation. Um, I do. I think part of it was um, some sort of, Scripture says that we don't fight flesh and blood, but spirits and principalities. I think part of it was that it was something outside of me trying to influence me,
Yeah.
um, without even realizing that I had a bigger purpose, you know? And it wasn't until after that moment I started reading Scripture and trying to figure out, well, who does God say I am? Who does the one that created me say I am? What does he say about me? What is my worth? What is my value? And it wasn't until 6 years later when I was 21 that, um, I battling back and forth, and I'd have a couple months with no sort of um, intrusive thoughts. And it wasn't until I was sitting at work. At the time, I was helping a staffing agency. I was doing their media. Um, I was sitting at work. I had two monitors up, and I had one that was just playing music while I was editing or whatever I was doing. And the song came on. I think it was from Passion City, and I don't know what happened, but in that moment, I heard that song. He said, I can't even remember the line now. He said a line, and then it felt like a weight was lifted, just sitting at
Mm.
work. And from that moment on, I've never had another suicidal thought.
That's awesome, man. I mean, have you ever read the book? And if you haven't read it, I highly encourage you to read it. Is The Screw Tape Letters by C.S.
Oh,
Lewis?
dude, I read it last year. It is so good. That,
That's awesome. I'm glad that you've read it. There's one moment in there, and it's not quite how C.S. Lewis puts it, but it's basically the same, where the demon is getting advice, right, from from his uncle, and he says, "Whatever you do, don't. You're human. You're patient. Don't make them so miserable that they hit rock bottom, because if they
mhm,
hit rock bottom, they'll fall to their knees and they'll cry out to God. You want them to keep them just miserable, but not rock bottom. Just miserable that they're not seeking the Lord, but they're
mhm.
but they're not seeking any change or anything like that. And
Complacent.
yeah, they're complacent with uh, just life that sucks."
Mhm.
And it sounds like you kind of went through that, like you had this, um, and I almost do believe that you would have some sort of entity that's on you, that's
Yeah.
keeping you down, so
Mhm.
that you don't, but not too low, that you
Just low enough.
break and are reborn.
Yeah. Yeah,
um,
absolutely.
and yeah, like that sort of thing really happens. And I had this other guy on a podcast. His name's Remy, and he'd been a Christian for years, and then he got prayed over, and he had always had these intrusive thoughts. His one were of lust, and just really lusting over other women everywhere that he went, and he hated himself for it, And then
Mm.
he had this moment where these people were praying over him, and he can't really remember exactly what happened, but it sounds like some sort of demonic manifestation happened in this moment. But when he woke up, he said, "Joel, for the first time, my mind was silent. I thought they were my thoughts going,
Mm.
look at that woman. Look how beautiful she is. I thought they were my thoughts." And that really, like, when I hear people and they say, "Man, I struggle with this thought or that thought or suicidal thoughts and things like that. You know, the little demon on your shoulder and the angel on your shoulder. I'm like, "Ooh, that is so close to the truth. It's not funny."
Yeah, it is.
So, yeah,
I was listening
I
to a song the
truly
other day.
think. Sorry,
He
carry on.
I was listening to a song the other day, and he said that almost word for word. He said something along the lines of, when you're a kid and you see the cartoon of the angel on one shoulder and devil on the other, you think it's just a cartoon, but it's not.
No, it is, and everyone's got it too, and it's
Hmm.
this like we need, and there's the spiritual gift of discernment, like hearing the right voice. You got your
Yep.
voice, you got God's voice, you've got Satan's voice. Like, which one are you listening to? And
Hmm.
they can all sound the same in your head, you know. I mean, in my head, it's always Morgan Freeman talking to me, but
It should be. Does he have a New Zealand accent?
of course.
Good.
Morgan Freeman or James Earl Jones, you know,
There you
the
go.
guy who does Mufasa and Darth Vader. Yeah, he's
Yep.
got it. His voice would definitely sound like if I imagine what God would sound like. But yeah, it's a scary thing, man. Like we grow up even in a Christian home, even in a
Yeah.
loving home, and then you get these you're going like, where is it coming from, you know? And we say we blame the fallen world this and the fallen world that, and then but like you said, Paul, we fight against not flesh and blood, but we fight against spirit, and it's like, oh yeah, there's a lot going on that we can't see. And
I
man,
was
if your eyes could open and see everything, everything would make a lot more sense.
I was like 14, 15, something like that, and um I was playing Xbox and I was like, I need something to drink. So I got up, went to the kitchen, got a cup of water, and turned and started walking back, and it slipped out of my hand and it hit the floor. And I'll never forget thinking to myself, man, you are so worthless you can't even carry a cup of water.
Whoa.
And I was thinking about this the other day. What a terrible thing for a child to be thinking.
Yeah.
And I didn't even realize at the time that it wasn't me. You know what I mean?
Wasn't you, man. There's no way it was you.
And
Especially when you know who you are.
yeah,
What God
exactly.
what somebody paid for you. There's no such thing as worthless in
Hmm.
there. It's not like your value is so high that Satan himself cannot comprehend it. Like
Hmm.
it's insane. And also, a thief doesn't come to rob a house with nothing valuable in it.
Oh,
Like
that's a good way to put
if
it too.
if you got an attack coming, it's because he sees value and he's got a target on your back. He's trying to take you out.
Yep.
And is one of the things I tell all my friends if they're newly saved. This wonderful girl Natalie, who first she became a Christian. She used to be my hairdresser, and when her and I were sitting together, and I ended up being able to pray for her, and I said to her, "You will have a target on your back now. I just want you to be ready because it's not become a Christian and life's easy. It's become a Christian
Mhm.
and a target gets on your back. A lot of people are gonna struggle with this new truth that you've got, with that truth that you've got, and they're gonna fight it and they're gonna hate you because the Bible promises they hated Jesus, they're gonna hate you." And it's
Yep.
like to be ready for that and be prepared for that, and that's what the armor of God is for. You know, like to actually get ready for the battle ahead and not just run out naked. You got to be ready.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Sorry. Let's go back to your story. I go on tangents sometimes. So you struggled with these thoughts from 15 right up until you're like, you say 21 around that age?
Yeah. Around then.
Yeah. And then you had this moment in a song just sitting at your desk.
Yeah. I don't even know why
God
or
uses
how.
everything.
Yep. And it was kind of I I think it was part of the song where basically it was like choosing freedom in a way,
Mm,
where it was more like I I let you work in me. I let you work on me, and I choose this instead of allowing myself to sit in this anymore.
mm,
And there may have been a thought here or there after that, but it was kind of a um what's that quote that says you let the um you let a bird fly over your head, but you don't let it make a nest in your hair. It
mm,
was like that where I started meditating on um take every thought captive, like, and then I started rereading Proverbs over and over and over again. Like, I need this wisdom that the scripture has that I don't have, and I need to I just need to rewire my brain. And I heard around the same time I read a book by Caroline Leaf. I think that's her name. Um, she's a neuroscientist, and she writes in the book that every single morning you wake up, you have new brain cells. You scientifically you get new brain cells. And she said it's strange. It reminds me of the scripture where it says your mind's made new every morning. She said your mind is literally made new every morning. She said because of that, you can change your mind. You can change everything. You can
I love that.
rewire your brain. And so it's kind of a combination of all of it where around the same time I was reading that and I was like, I can be free. I have freedom.
Mm,
It's in me. And at this point, I know I'm worth it. So
mm.
why not accept it?
That's right. I mean, here in Thailand, we got lots of elephants, and there's this awesome story of this elephant that's uh, somebody goes to visit a bunch of elephants, and there's this huge elephant, and it's tied up with this tiny little rope around the stump of their legs. This really powerful beast that could tip a car over isn't going anywhere because it's tied up with this rope that it could break like it was a piece of hair. And the trainer says, well, when they're really young, we we put this rope on them, and they're too weak at that point to break it. So they get familiar with this rope, and the older they get, they end up not trying to break it. So they don't need chains, they don't need anything. They just need this fine rope. And this elephant believes that it is chained and it cannot move. And I see us like that, like the devil is trying to convince you with this rope that you are stuck and you can't go
Hmm.
anywhere. Yet Christ has given us the strength that raises us and far stronger than he could ever be.
Yep.
And all we got to do is actually believe and go, no, I'm going to walk out of here. And yeah, it's just like that, and I love these elephants. Like, it's one of the hardest things to see is the abuse that these elephants go through. Yet they're so much bigger and stronger than us. It's insane. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's just, what do they call it? Brainwashed. I
Hmm.
mean, people sometimes tell me that I'm brainwashed because I believe in God. And I often respond with, that is absolutely true. My brain has been washed. It used to be filthy. It used to be all over the place and is washed clean by the blood of Jesus.
Yep.
And yeah, it's just one of those things where even the word brainwash sounds like a negative thing. It's
Hmm.
actually, when you think about it, it's a good
It's what
thing.
you want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're doing trucking at the moment, but you've got this heart and this ambition for film
Yeah.
and developing and showing and sharing the gospel through unique ways. Um, do you want to share a little bit about like your journey going into that with
Yeah.
even the documentary that you made for Enoch, um, and sort of how did you step out into, I'm going to go do this?
So I believe it was about 2016-ish. There was a guy in town who I became pretty good friends with, and he was a photographer. And so we were hanging out all the time. And he's kind of like an older brother to me at the time. And he was like, I could really use some help on these photo shoots. I carry props and stuff. Would you want to help me? I was like, absolutely. And then after two or three shoots, um, carrying ladders and stuff, I was like, would you teach me how to use the camera? Because growing up, I I was 12, and I used our little video camera that we had at the house, and I would film like a bonfire and film random skits with my friends and put it in YouTube. And YouTube had a little editor at the time, and so I was trying to learn how to edit videos, and then um, I did that for maybe a year and kind of stopped recording anything, and then um, helping him, I it was kind of resparked like cameras are actually cool. I enjoy this. So I was helping him, and he was teaching me some of the basics. And right around the time, I don't know, a couple few months in, maybe it was uh it was December near Christmas. He bought himself a new camera, a really nice camera, new lenses and everything, whole new setup. And he gave me his old setup. He was like, "Do you want this?" And it was at the time, I mean, it was a Canon 70D with a couple prime lenses, and so which was not a small purchase, and
Mm.
um, kind of the cross between like right at the professional sort of level. Um,
At the
and I took that
baseline.
camera. Yeah,
Yeah.
I took that camera and ended up making thousands and thousands of dollars with it because I learned how to use it. And I started shooting photos, and then I started shooting videos. And he asked me to shoot videos for the youth group at church. And so I started just making skits. I would do two or three videos a week, and then I would go shoot our like youth retreats. And so I would video recaps and do all the announcement videos and all that kind of stuff for church. Um, and I was probably making at least two videos a week, um, usually more than that, two or three videos a week, for probably 2 years. Uh, and in 2017, my mom met a guy on Facebook who had an orphanage in India, and he had family in Valdosta, which is about 2 hours, hour and a half, 2 hours away from here. And he was flying back to the US every year to raise money. So he would drive around for like um, 2 months out of the year, and he was like just raising money, driving church to church and selling goods. And he would load a minivan full of like pins that they made, handmade, and a bunch of other Indian goods. And so he was just raising money that way. And I met him, and I was like, "Hey, do you do like videos or anything?" He was like, "Kinda, shoot some stuff on my phone here or there." I was like, "Could I go over there and film with you?" He said, "Yeah, I'd love that." He said, "If you buy your plane ticket, I will, I'll give you somewhere to stay, and you stay as long as you want, and we can shoot whatever you want." I said, "Sounds good." So I was working at Chick-fil-A. I was shooting weddings, photo or video. I think I was second shooting for some people, just like a backup shooter. Um, and then also doing the stuff at the church. And I just raised the money as much as I could, and ended up raising about or saving about $1,500 in a year, which for me at the time was not small. Um, Living at the house with my mom and working three jobs, saved up the money and told him, I was like, "Hey, I got my ticket. I want to have my 21st birthday in India, so I'll go October, I don't know, like 2nd or something, and I'll leave November 2nd." He said, "Perfect. You'll be here for my birthday too." And so I went over there for a month and um, shot my first ever documentary. Uh,
Wow.
did a
Just
little
you.
premiere. Yeah. Um,
Wow.
I don't know.
Man,
I don't know if I should say this publicly, but I will anyway. I actually borrowed a camera because I still had the Canon 70D. That's all I had.
I was just
I
gonna
borrowed
say, whisper on your shoulder, do it, do it.
I borrowed a camera from a guy who his work bought this camera. So and he he basically let me borrow their camera. I don't think anybody knows this actually. He let me borrow their camera and I took it and some of their lenses to India uh, in a
Big
carry-on.
enough.
I had this huge carry-on bag. I'd never flown before. At this point, I've never flown. I didn't have a passport. I didn't have anything. I had never been to an airport, and I was 20. Never been to nothing. Um, and so I loaded down this carry-on, and it weighed about it's like 55, 60 pounds. Um, and it was like just a huge hiking bag, basically. And I loaded it down with my laptop, which I got when I was um, 17. My dad co-signed a loan for me so I could buy a MacBook Pro. So I got this laptop, borrowed camera equipment, um, shoved some clothes in here, and I was like, I hope this is enough. They said I can wash my clothes, so uh, I ended up just, making it happen. And it was an adventure. And I loved every second of it. And I came back and I was like, one, I had no idea that nonprofits and missionaries didn't have they don't have like a budget. Small nonprofits, unless they're like donor funded, they don't have a budget to hire somebody to record content for them. Um,
Sure.
and so at that moment when I got back, I was like, I have got to figure out a way to do this um, for people. I got to start a nonprofit or something. And so it was, I pieced that whole thing together. It took me months figuring out the interview I did with him. His name's Andy. Uh, it was a 3.5 long interview. I had never conducted an interview before. I had no idea how to do it. So it was 3.5 hours and it was outside. You hear all the Indian horns and traffic and, yeah, it
Authentic
was,
indie
yep.
interview, right? Yeah.
And so I'm trying to figure out
No
how do I make
green
this
there.
sound better?
You
It's just
bad.
beep, honk, honk, uh, so I'm trying to make it work and end up I did like a voiceover and stuff in it. It's not great, but, um, it worked and he ended up using it and a bunch of the other content I used to, raise a bunch of money. So he had content to use to raise money and I realized that, hey, I need to figure out a way to do this for people. And then while I'm doing that, I go be a line chef at a plantation here in town, which is kind of a fancy term for dishwasher. So I basically wash dishes and do freelance work until I get to the place where they're the checks I'm getting from them are just enough to pay my gas to drive there. And I was like, there's no point in doing this when I could be spending the time freelancing. So I end up
Mm.
freelancing full time for a year doing mostly weddings. And so I'm doing weddings and um, end up,
So how old are you now? Because that was when you were 21. You went to India,
yeah,
and
so it's right after that. I must have been doing the line cook. I'd have
how
to,
old are you now?
I was still 21. I must be 22 when I start freelancing full time.
Yeah,
I think I was still 21. I think it was like that February or March of the next year.
yeah.
Um, and so I'm
But how old are you now?
right now
Yeah, right now.
27.
You're 27. Okay, cool. Oh,
Um,
so this has been like you've had a good few years like going, this is what I'm called for.
Yeah. So I do that, and then I go do this media thing. So I freelance for a year, and then this staffing agency says, "Hey, we need to hire a full-time social media person." So I end up doing that because I was like, a consistent check would be nice. So I end up doing that and still doing a little bit of freelance here and there. And then a guy comes in who says, "Hey, I have this nonprofit. Um, I'm funding it, and I need someone to make the media for it." I was at the staffing agency for a year or two. He says, "Will you, if I pay you, will you just make media for me and help nonprofits?" It was called Pivot Foundation. And I was like, "Yeah, dude, that's exactly what I want to do." Um, so I leave and I do that. And he says, after, I should have thought this through. I'm trying to get the timeline right. Uh,
Yeah,
I guess the
sorry, you
timeline
dropped
doesn't
out on
matter.
my end for a second.
Oh, sorry. What'd you hear?
You had this guy that was going to do pay you for a to work in a non-profit just to do editing.
Yeah. So he started a nonprofit called the Pivot Foundation, where basically his whole goal was to inspire, equip, and connect people. Um, and so it was essentially what I wanted to do was make content for nonprofits. So I left the staffing agency to do that full time, and that was March of 2020. And so everything changed with COVID over here, and Albany got hit pretty hard with COVID. And so I was just finding ways to still help nonprofits and tell stories. And I made a documentary about food deserts here in Albany. And it's got over like 20,000 views or something on it. It did really well. And that was the second ever documentary I did.
Wow.
Um, that was 2020. And then March of last year, I decided that, well, I don't have to go through all my other jobs I've had. I so my wife got pregnant, and so I was like, well, I need something more consistent than it pays a little bit more than working for a nonprofit. Um, okay, I need to backtrack a little bit. So this is I'm kind of going through the whole story roughly. Um, so uh, he says in 2021, "Hey, I want to start backing out of this. I want to do a little bit more." He said, "However, I'll help you start your own nonprofit." So 2021, I apply and I get my 501c3 for 1334 Media. So all of Pivot Foundation becomes 1334 Media. And that's where I end up, um, you know, starting to create and help more nonprofits, slightly change the goal from just inspiring and equipping people to helping nonprofits tell their story, helping small nonprofits and missionaries tell their story. And so I've been doing that since 2020. And so 2024, um, I found Enoch. Our pastor's actually friends with Enoch. They partnered with them a little bit. And I was trying to find a missionary to help. I'd done a few mission trips and I was like, I need to find someone to help this year. And there were about 5 or 6 different people that I was really thinking about, but I only had peace about Enoch and I had peace about going there. And I had no interest in Thailand. My only experience in Southeast Asia was India. And I was like, I don't really want to go live somewhere for a while that doesn't have consistent power. And
Yeah.
uh, but I had no idea what Thailand was going to be like and how much I was going to love it. Um, and so I go there and we raise the money. And basically, I tell people, hey, we're going to Thailand. Um, and then the money just came through. We were going to have a team of 4 go. Um, but as it got closer and closer, the ticket prices went up. And so we went from trying to raise money for all 4 of us to go to the money we were raising was going to be enough for 3 people. And then the tickets got up to like $1,000, and I was like, okay, well, we're we can pay for two of us, see if we can raise enough for the third, and we couldn't. So we raised enough money for two plane tickets and the money we were going to need for like the hotel and the food and all that kind of stuff. We raised all the money and went. We basically told people, "Hey, we're going this year. Please support," and it
Yeah.
ended up working. Um, so I went and shot that documentary. I don't know. I feel like I was kind of all over the place. I don't know if you want
No,
to.
that was great. I mean, I hadn't ever heard your side from like, how did you? I didn't even know how you guys even met Pastor Enoch. So just for our listeners, Pastor Enoch is the pastor of the church that I attend here in Chiang Mai, Thailand. Um, so yeah, I mean because it seems so random. Like, you're American, Pastor Enoch's Australian, he lives in Thailand. You guys have never been to Thailand. It just seems like, man, God was working
Oh
sort
yeah.
of very, very carefully to get you guys to meet, which is really cool.
I
Um,
actually ended up speaking with Enoch and figuring out the whole story. So, um, the guy who was pastoring our church, he is friends with Shane Willard, who kind of travels around Australia a lot. And so Shane Willard comes to our church every single year. And so they got connected to Enoch from that because Shane Willard also visits Enoch's church in Australia every year. And so
yeah.
they were connected. And then our pastor at the time ended up supporting Enoch the first time they were in Thailand. Um,
Mhm.
and then our new pastor loved what the Kenways were doing. So he kept sending support anytime they needed anything. Um, and then when I asked on Facebook, I just put a post out like, "Hey, does anybody know any missionaries um, that may need help this year?" And I text my pastor. I was like, "Do you know any? Because is there anyone that um, Grace City's supporting that more people need to know about?" And he said, "Look up the Kenways." And he sent me a YouTube video that they had just done. Um, and I was like, "This is them. I'm going there." So I told my board, "Hey, this is where we're going," and they were like, "All right, raise the money."
I love that. Just go. Yeah. And you know what's really cool about what you do with your documentaries? It's very similar to what we do, but we use podcasts. So
Yeah.
we invite Christian missionaries to come onto the show, and these, I mean, we started off with just any testimony, um, why God impacted and changed and transformed your life, and how He can do that with our listeners, basically. And then we were doing that for 3 years, maybe 4 years, and we did a whole tour around all of New Zealand. We went to almost every church and Bible study and organization that we could get our hands on, and that would have us. And we basically just encourage people to share their testimony in the
Wow.
most raw form and make sure that it's consistent with really focusing on Jesus. Um, there's a yeah, and then basically we heard the Lord say go to Thailand, and we're going, why?
Yeah.
Our podcast requires believers.
Hmm.
And God says, go to a country that has 99% Buddhist people.
Yep.
And I'm thinking, I should be going to a country that has the most believers possible because they're the ones that come on the show. I can't have
Yeah.
Buddhist people come on the show and share about Jesus.
Yeah. That
and
doesn't make sense.
no. And then we went and we did a scout trip here. And we ended up going to a conference, and we found out that Chiang Mai, Thailand, has this huge group of missionaries. Like, it's the most amount of missionaries in Southeast Asia is the city Chiang Mai, and that's the city that God was saying to go to. And
Wow.
we didn't realize until we got there. And now we're basically getting these testimonies. They're still testimonies. Hey, family, we just want to take a quick moment to invite you to partner with the Jesus Magnet. Every episode we share is built on one simple yet extraordinarily powerful truth that all it takes is a testimony, a story of how Jesus set us free, healed us, and delivered us, and that can change someone's life forever. When you support this podcast, you're helping get those testimonies out to the world at a click of a button, crossing borders. You're helping people see that God is still moving, He is still healing, and He is still transforming lives today. These are real stories, people that have been radically transformed by Christ. If you've been encouraged by what you hear, please consider partnering with us. You can support us at our Ko-Fi link in the description below, or just reach out to the jesusmagnet@gmail.com. Together, let's keep shining that light, pointing people back to the one who set the captives free. Thank you for being part of the Jesus Magnet family. Yeah, so basically our podcast not only does testimonies now, we got to Chiang Mai and we now do missionary testimonies. So still testimonies, but now we're really focusing on the missions and how people are doing some incredible stuff for the gospel. And yeah, it's we've had people like, and I should hook you up with some of these people that really could use some great documentaries as well.
That'd be
We've
awesome.
had this guy called Sky Barkley, who's a free Burma Ranger. So he runs into war zones with
Holy crap.
basically like a machine gun and a Bible. And he's where there's smoke and fire, instead of where most people run from that, he runs to it. So they've got, well, they do have a documentary already out, but they would be well worth talking to.
I'll take a camera and go with
Honestly,
him.
yeah, yeah, that would be the hard part. I mean, I'm kind of happy to be the podcaster where I can stay nice and safe in my studio and they can just come to me.
My
Bit
wife and I
easier,
were
but
talking
no.
about adventures at dinner. I think it might have been last night. Uh, and there's always some sort of adventure we are both excited for, and that's kind of why we're enjoying parenting, because it's always a new adventure.
Yeah, so good. Oh, it's one of the best things. So I've got my final question for you before we wrap
Okay.
up. Um, where is God taking you for the next couple of years? Do you think you're going to move? Do you foresee like a full time movement into documentary work, or is He keeping you rooted while you've got your family still growing? They're still young and in that space, or whereabouts is God taking you and your family?
So we've had the opportunity to move quite a few times, but we just feel like we're supposed to stay here. I don't know if it's the roots in our church or if there's going to be some sort of um, move here or what it is. We kind of feel like this is our headquarters in a way, um,
Mm.
and will impact the world from here. Um, but we might move a little bit out of town, like 20 minutes away, but nothing serious. Uh, we've had the opportunity to move to a couple different states, jobs to apply for and stuff like that, but nothing's felt right. So we're going to be here for a while. I'm podcasting now. I kind of fought God on it for a while because I hate being on camera and I hate speaking. That's why I like being behind the camera. Um,
Did your
but
wife say the same thing to you that she said to me? My wife has always said I have a face for radio.
yes, no, I don't know. I just don't. I feel like I'm not very good at the speaking aspect. I like asking questions, and that's why I like conducting interviews, especially like documentary interviews. I feel like I'm just curious about everything, and so like it's taken everything in me to not just ask you questions this whole time. Um, so I don't know. I feel like I'm not. I don't know. I just really enjoy the question asking aspect of podcasting. I just hate being on camera and being in front. I wish there was a front man for my nonprofit, but there's me. Um, so yeah, so I'm doing a podcast where it exists to inspire and equip small nonprofits. It's become a really easy way to help nonprofits that doesn't take me 6 months like a documentary does.
Mhm.
Um, like I just released one with there's a lady in town named Tiffany who's opening up a women's sober living facility, and the whole podcast was me just asking her story, like no questions, just an authentic conversation, like what's your recovery story? And she just began to tell the truth, and her whole testimony unfolded, and it that's what led her to opening up a sober living facility for women. And now that video has over 1,000 views on it, um, where she had, I'm not going to say no online presence, but very little online presence. She now has her entire story published online, um, with over 1,000 views on just YouTube alone, not including Spotify, Apple, and Facebook and Instagram. Um, and so I think the Facebook one has 4 or 5,000 views. Basically, I was able to produce this content for her completely free for all small nonprofits that we work with. Um, and so she's able to get her story out, and it just took her, you know, 2 hours on site. Um,
Yeah.
and so really digging into the podcasting aspect, I am enjoying it. I really enjoy podcasting, even though I fought God on it and I really didn't want to do it. So it was really an honor to be able to be invited here. I feel like I don't really belong here. Um, you've had some absolutely mind-blowing stories told here, and it's just me saying, "Hey,
Mate,
I played
everyone's
for the
got
camera."
such a powerful story. And I'll tell you one thing, like one of my pet peeves is when people say, I don't really have a story. Um, honestly, look, we get the odd guy that's, like I said, the free Burma Ranger who has these crazy stories. They do not everybody, believe it or not, not everybody can relate to that.
Yeah, that's true.
Not very many have run into a war with a machine gun and have like seen people die around them. So, as inspiring as his story is, and I truly think it is, um, your story and my story that are very simple. They're very, I was lost and now I'm found. I was
Yeah,
sick and now I'm healed. Those stories really, really do reach the most people because everyone's lost and everybody needs to be found. And it's one of those things where like there's a lot of depressed people in this world that need to hear how you found God and how that's who you run to. And not everybody's got
good
to
way to put
like
it.
running into a war zone, but there's
Yeah,
a lot more people that are depressed and like that's what I mean. Like even though yours is simple, it's powerful and it reaches so many people. So like never be afraid, never be ashamed, be bold and just keep speaking your story because they're the ones that we actually need to hear. People need to know that there's a God. It doesn't matter what it is. They just need to know how he changed your life. So yeah, that's what I'd say to that. Yeah. Um, well, I just want to say thank you so much for coming on the Jesus Magnet. We had a whirlwind of technical issues on
from the
your
very
side and
beginning.
on my side. So I think the devil does not want this episode recorded.
I'd have to
So
agree.
I just want to, yeah, thank you so much for being on the show. And I'm going to continue to pray over your ministry. I'm going to add
Thank
it
you.
to my prayer list and just, yeah, I know that next time you come to Thailand, whether you're coming for a documentary or holiday, you have a place to stay. Just let me know.
Thank
Would
you.
love to have you, Blake, and your family. So, um, yeah, thank you for coming on the Jesus Magnet.
Thank you.
You gotta live it, you gotta love it. Testimony goes on and on and on. It's magnetic, it's prophetic, it's God's stories being told.